Good morning, caretakers, and welcome to Caretaker's Corner, where we discuss everything that has to do with taking care of your elderly or disabled parents, your disabled spouses, or your adult disabled children. I'm CJ, and today we're going to start discussing different living options. So by this I mean living at home by themselves, living in a multi-generational household, living in a retirement community / assisted living community, or living in a nursing facility. Each of these 3/4 options have different pros and cons, and we're going to go over basically what each option is and then the pros and cons of each. And there are a whole bunch of subjects I've got to discuss about them. So this might be another one of those video series things that we get going on, because I've noticed that everybody likes about 15-minute videos, so I try and keep it between 10 and 15 minutes. Sometimes I go a little over because I get chatty, but I sure try and keep it up that way. So today we're going to discuss the fact that there are three, and if you consider living on their own or living with the family being two separate options, possibly four, I am putting them down as one option, because basically everything kind of similar on it. All right, so our first option is living at home by themselves, living in their own home, or living in a multi-generational home, family home. So this is unique in the fact that, one, usually, ideally, that by the time they're elderly, they own their own home, so that makes that cheaper. They usually own it, hopefully outright. And then, or living with family, they can help out with the bills if they're living with family, and that helps offset costs. So if they live in their own home, then it can require that either somebody goes and visits them every day, or that a family member will help take care of them, like live there with them and take care of them, or that you have to get a paid caretaker to stay with them. Now, obviously, a paid caretaker will up the cost of it. Family members usually are preferable because, especially if the person has dementia, having a person that they don't know very well living in the home and taking care of them can be an issue. Dementia patients have a whole bunch of issues that just your regularly aging parent or spouse does not have. So on the front of taking care of them, getting somebody to help take care of them, it can be cheaper if it's a family member, but if you do have to get a paid caretaker, that could get expensive. Now, I do know sometimes insurances will help pay for having somebody to come in and sit with them or help out with some of their care, like CNA coming in a couple times a week to help with bathing and stuff, but you will need to check with your insurance on that. I also know that you can go through private companies and staffing agencies, medical staffing agencies, to find people that are willing to do that, but it does cost. But it is a way that it would be cheaper than a nursing facility, but still more expensive than if a family member can do it. As you all know, I let my parents know in the past, and even my spouse, there are certain things I cannot do, and we have had to outsource that. In emergency situations, I've been able to help. I just don't do bodily fluids. I don't even like my own bodily fluids, more or less anyone else's. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, no matter what you choose, a family member does need to be 100% involved in helping with the decisions, the care and medical decisions. So you don't let, if you bring in a paid caretaker, you don't let them make any of the medical decisions or financial decisions. Typically, this is where things get a little bit hairy about bringing in a third party, and that is trust issues. All right, you hear about it all the time on TV, and I know we've had this situation with my aunt, my great aunt, when she passed away, and my dad had to go in and take care of her estate. The person that had been helping with her care all of a sudden was like, oh, well, she was trying to change her will at the last minute and all this jazz. And so she was trying to get all of it. And we don't know what my aunt's last thoughts were, but I know that the will stood, and the lady was very adamant about she should be allowed to have everything. So you want to be careful about that. Make sure you're involved. If you are the primary person for your parents, make sure you're involved in all of those decisions. If they start making, even if it just starts out where they're making a lot of little decisions with their help. Now, I'm not talking about what clothes to wear or what to eat for dinner, but when it starts coming to how to spend money or stuff like that, that's where you need to step up and get involved quick. Which is why previously I've just always done it myself, taking care of my family members. I've got the help of my friends and family with taking care of my family. But yeah, so that's something to keep in mind. Now, for you need to think about, one, do you want a multi-generational household? Meaning, do you want your parents, yourself and your spouse, and your children all living under the same roof? There are a lot of advantages to this in the fact that it is less stressful on you. You don't have to go from one house to another. Like, for instance, I was going from the house that we live in to work every day, which is 25 miles. After work, I was going from work to the house my dad was living in, which is also my house, which is 25 miles. And then back to my house that I live in, which is 25 miles. So it was 75 miles a day after work, on top of the fact that, it was daunting. It also took hours out of my schedule. So I made arrangements with my dad. I went every other day to visit my dad. I had cameras at the house so I could check to make sure he was up and walking and hadn't fallen or anything. We had Alexa set up so that he could yell for help. But we're talking, it was 2 or 3 hours a day every other day that I would leave work after working anywhere from 10 to 12 hours. And then I would go there for 2 hours, come home, take care of my spouse and the whatever animals we had here, dogs, cats, whatever, and then get up and do it all over again. So it can be daunting having 2 separate houses. So that's something you might want to think about. Also, if you have a multi-generational house, then that means that it is not all on you. Because you can have your spouse or your children help with smaller things depending on your children's age. Having children around does help in a lot of cases, not in all, because dementia is an exception to the rule. It will help keep the family member, the elderly parent, connected to the family and help keep them going, because they want to take care of, typically they want to help out with grandkids. And that will help them also give them something to get up and look forward to doing every day. I know my dad had some issues because he lived by himself, so he had some depression issues because he wanted people to talk to all the time. And so this would help out with issues like that. It also gives them something to do as far as you can have a set schedule. I get up at work at, like for my wife, I get up at work to go to work between 2:45 and 3 a.m. So she wakes up and has breakfast that early. And then we go to bed earlier because I get up at 3 a.m. So our animals are on that schedule, and she's on that schedule. And, in that case, you can put, your parent on a similar schedule. Also, like I said, your spouse can help out, and it can really keep them engaged. And believe it or not, keeping a elderly folks engaged is about half the battle of dealing with a lot of the issues that they have. I know people tend to go downhill. You know, everybody goes, oh, they went downhill quick. Did they live by themselves? Did they have a social structure? So being in a multi-generational household will help a lot with the social structure, and just keeping that interaction with other people going, which will help offset early onset cognitive issues, and like I said, just help them with the depression. I mean, it won't stop it, because depression is a big issue, not only for the elderly, but for everybody. And that is a time when you should also seek outside help from a medical doctor concerning that. But being able to keep them engaged and keep the whole family involved in their care, so that way if something happens or they start to have little issues, other people can notice it. Because like in my case with my dad, I was the primary caretaker. With my spouse, I'm the primary caretaker, and I work a lot. So other people tend to notice things that I don't, because I'm also working a lot and not paying as much attention as I should because of that. Let's be honest. I wish I paid more attention, but sometimes you get busy being adult, and adulting sucks sometimes. Just remember that. So this video is already over 11 minutes, almost 12. So I guess I'll do another video later explaining about assisted living facilities and nursing facilities. We will also go on to discuss, like I said, the pros and cons of each. I've gone over a few positives while discussing the living home with family, and some negatives, but I've actually got a long list of pros and cons for these items, for these 3 options. In the end, you ultimately have to not only take into account your parent situation or your spouse or your adult child situation, their happiness and their medical needs, but you have to take into account your own. And what caretakers don't tend to do is take into account their own issues. I knew I could make that drive every day. I also know that if I couldn't, I'd just call my dad and say, hey, I can't make it today. I know with my spouse, there are days where I'm sick. She understands that, and she tries to be a little bit more dependent on those days. And my friends, you know, they help out with her a lot more on those days. But caretakers do not tend to take into account our own health when we make decisions about those we take care of. And that is a big issue, because I have a buddy at work. His health is going downhill because he tends to forget about his own medical needs and take care of his wife's medical needs. And he has some serious medical issues. And like last couple of weeks, he's forgotten that he had doctor's appointments. So these are things that we need to take into account also, ourselves. If you are not in good shape, you cannot take care of somebody else. That is something I want you to remember at all times. You have to take care of yourself before you can be a caretaker to others. On that note, have a great day. Don't forget to smash the like button and like, subscribe, and share. Please comment in the comment section if there's any questions you have or anything you'd like me to discuss, or just any questions or comments about this video. Have a great day, and I'll see you next Sunday.